there is no recourse but to counsel them to divorce because there's going to be no end to their fighting. You can actually, the best thing to do is to be able to be aware of your schema. That's why meditation works, right? You're becoming aware that something is rising in you, but the problem is that you cling on to the story of that arising. So my favorite example is my friend who curses the news every day because the markets are tanking, and then remind him, are you constipated? That's the reason you're irritated. That's the reason why you're shrieking at the TV. If you're not constipated, you see that market news, it's okay, the markets will recover tomorrow. But see, those are like your schemata, right? These little things that are in your physiology that just basically think you're irritated with the market news, but you're actually, that's a false attribution, right? You're irritated because you are actually having very constipated morning or very constipated mornings, series of mornings. So anyway, that's
all the more reason we need fiber.
Yeah, I've lectured for 15 years now, Alan, that the fiber is the fastest disappearing macronutrient in the human diet, and now finally people are picking it up. A decade and a half too early. No shit, right?
Literally.
And now they're fiber maxing too, not just getting fiber, but like how much max fiber can you get it? And actually, this is a great segue into our conversation today, guys, on the hidden cost of convenience and comfort that we're going to be talking about on the Health Optimization Medicine podcast. It's good to see you all. Happy podcast. How are we all doing?
Feeling not constipated today, which is good.
Oh, I'm really glad to hear that.
Ready to get out of our comfort zones.
I'm excited for this topic, Jodi, that you decided that we chat about today. You're calling it the hidden cost of convenience and comfort. And one of the things that was just the segue that I was thinking of is processed food, right? You have food that has very little fiber or very poor nutrient density, and especially the low fiber. I remember I was working with a patient. It was the son of one of my other patients, and he was around 2021, and he was a professional gamer. And he hadn't had more than one bowel movement a week in a couple years. And he was sitting in a chair for 18 hours a day, maxing his gaming, definitely not fiber maxing. And
you make it sound like looks maxing, right?
I just saw an article on that too.
The bones grow one way. But Scott, they probably also eat Soylent, right? Remember? Yeah, the guys don't actually even know the origin of that. It's from Soylent Green, where, oh my God.
The name is familiar, but yeah.
It's a classic story. Like Soylent Green is made up of people it's a very famous story. It was even made into a movie where the old people actually disappeared to a better place, etc., etc. The truth is that they're actually getting killed and ground and made into Soylent.
That's right. That's right.
And that was the food of the people. And Soylent was actually named after that. But it was made of soy and other stuff, and it's a paste. Have you ever had it? And
no.
You squeeze it. When I used to be so crazy, I would code for 18 hours. Your friend would be gaming for 18 hours. I would be coding for 18 hours, just straight through several days. And all I'd be doing is having the Soylent, and actually some people have Mountain Dew, right? Because of the caffeine. I would just have water. But it just feeds you, and you just have to go on and on. But that's the price of convenience. Of course, it's 10 days later you poop. Because there's absolutely no fiber.
A difficult way. So do you wear a diaper when you're coding for 18 hours, or do you wear a diaper when you're playing a game? You don't get up very often.
No,
but I don't know.
You have a pee cup.
A pee cup, of course.
A pee bottle.
But what if you're female? That's not that easy to do. Yeah.
There are attachments, but it's usually males who do a lot of the gaming and coding anyway. They have the appendage to actually dangle into a bottle, right? But the hidden costs here go both ways. Like, for example, the convenience of our lifestyles will give us things like Soylent and all of these other things, but they do lack fiber. But even the convenience of adding fiber sucks, right? Say you take like a psyllium husk, or you take a mixed blend of fibers, etc., right? Then you have to take lots and lots of water. And then when you do take them, you finally fart, right? So It's either you get used to actually taking natural fiber every day where your farts are manageable, or you take this artificial, actually they're natural source of fiber, but artificially dosed, and you get all of the bloating, etc., etc. That's why the warning, right? Drink lots of fluids with it. And second, you will fucking fart. And I know I have patients who I actually warn, please don't take your fiber supplements if you don't want to get embarrassed in a black tie gala, because you will fart with those things.
You need to be anonymous, like on an airplane or something.
So there's the convenience of having easy food that have no fiber, and there's the convenience of having fiber that's dosed unnaturally, right? Fiber should be actually taken in the diet. And for the goody two shoes who actually are so used to fiber, I have someone right now who's actually prepping for a colonoscopy, right? And he was saying, like, holy shit, it's so difficult to find food without any fiber. And that's because he's preparing for a colonoscopy. And he wants to reach for foods that are natural for him, that are actually naturally fiber rich, right?
Yeah, it is difficult to find food without any fiber, isn't it? What I would say in addition, as Ted is in frozen mode waiting to come back to see us, is that I think about convenience and comfort in a lot of different ways, Jodi. And I was going to actually ask you, after Ted was done, to chat a little bit about how you see this in clinical practice where you are in Perth. Is it all Vegemite and Marmite? Is that the convenience foods that people eat? Or what are you seeing people sacrifice for convenience at this point in clinic on a regular basis?
Yeah, and I think I'll give context as well. And I think it's a great thing to talk about in relation to food. But the other reason I chose this particular topic is because I'm seeing a lot of people who are in chronic states of health. And sometimes we actually need to come out of our comfort zone to push the body into a better state of healing. And so it's knowing to know when is that going to be? And that's the biggest question when I see clients. But to the convenience of food, yeah, it's what I'm finding actually is people are going to more the convenience health foods now, and they're not great. So there's convenience health bars, convenience health meals, and it's still in the sort of health food section of the supermarkets, but they're packaged still, and they're not whole, and they're not full, vital foods that are full of water and vitamins and minerals, but they've been put in an unnatural form that's recognized by the body, and we talk about that at HOMeHOPE a lot, but it's not consumably. The chewing process, the actual entourage impact of what that whole food has on the body is very different in a packet, and you can't create nature in that way. We try to mimic nature as much as we can, but we can't achieve that. And so you have to know what is a good quality food versus what a convenience food is, even if it's a health food, and how often you should be having those. Yes, they should be just in case I didn't get to the shop today or I couldn't have lunch today, versus having it as a sustainable meal plan. Yeah, so that I think I'm seeing a lot more in practice. People are aware of what's bad and what's good, but it's now they're getting convenience health foods come in. And even if it is fiber attached, it's not multitudes of different fibers with all the other nutrients and support that's along with that. Also, aside to that, the food's not great quality anymore because of the soils that we're, not the soiling, but it's the soils that we're eating from, and the food's been grown in is not high quality and full of the dense nutrients and minerals that we're needing too. Yeah, so that I think I'm seeing that in clinical practice, and I'm having to guide people into making sure that they're making their foods well, and the convenience of the cooking too. Microwaves, we can talk about that as a convenience point. We could talk about cooking in the wrong oils and the wrong heat, and you've got fried foods and you've got air fryers, and it's all of those convenience products. The way that we're cooking can also be not ideal for health all the time. Yeah.
Jodi, when you're counseling your clients on this, how are you, for our listeners, how are you helping them understand the requirements for fiber, especially in a day and age where fiber is not really seen as, part of eating whole foods. It's more of a supplement in itself, just like a vitamin would be, get your fiber. And so people are in this mindset of thinking of that. I'm just curious, how do you, using what you just said, how do you encourage folks to really hit those fiber goals given? And let's maybe talk about what those goals are on a daily basis.
Yeah, we talk about, Ted talks about it a lot. He's been talking about it for a long time. We're aiming at around 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day, and that's hard to hit, but it's something that you have to have a visual output for clients, because they go, what is 25 to 30 grams? What is that? I can't see that. and you say, vegetables and fruits at each part of your meal or each part of the day, so breakfast, lunch and dinner. And then you've also got the colours. I put it in there as colours and different types of foods. And then you've got a combination of different things on your plate. So I give always a plate example. You've got your rainbow fruits and veggies. You've got your proteins, which you need. You've got your carbohydrate forms of grains if you require them at that particular time. And you've got your fats. And showing them in terms of portions of what that might look like, then that gives them an example that they can visually understand for the fiber. And in relation to why we have the fiber, it's so easy when we do a GIFX or a gut microbiome and to show them all short chain fatty acids, and these are the bacteria, and this is their fuel, this is their food, this is what they need. And without that, then you don't get any of those good bacteria and the support that your gastrointestinal system, which is there for your immune system, which is there for your nervous system, which is there for your mood and your brain and how your body is coping in the world. So yeah, putting it in those sorts of, and in real life encounters and examples for those particular clients. And it's not just about having a good poo, which is amazing and it feels good, but it's also about how you show up in the world and how resilient you are, and how then you can be more uncomfortable in your life to then grow. Yeah.
Yeah. Jodi is very kind. I actually require 34 grams of fiber a day, about 4 grams more. But if you take a look at the artificial fibers that are out there, you can actually get 10 grams from a single scoop of. However, what people don't realize that fibers are carbohydrates and they are included in your total carbohydrate count. So what you should pay attention to is if you're actually counting carbohydrates is what's called your net carbs, those that are actually absorbed by your body, right? So your total carbohydrates minus your insoluble carbohydrates, which is fiber, right? So I don't know, you even have to repeat this to doctors, that fibers are actually carbohydrates. And then they're just insoluble, they don't contribute to your calorie count. Or if this is soluble fiber, then they are included in your calorie count. So of the fibers, there are insoluble fibers and the soluble fibers. So you better take a look at what kind of fibers you're actually taking in if you are doing convenience fiber intake, right? And make sure that when you take, there are some that are capsules, or there's some that are measured by the scoopful, etc. Make sure that they're always with some water, all right? When you're a lot of water, actually, not just some water when you take it. That's the way that I actually look at fiber. The thing that we're looking at here in terms of convenience, right, is that there are certain things that we do repeated in life that cannot be banked, and eating is one of them, right? The effects of poor eating will actually reverberate all throughout your life, not even just within the years, but they will reverberate during the day, right? Because you get constipated, you get irritated, you have all of these behavioral manifestations. And another, when you look at convenience things, is the other convenience thing is exercise, right? You cannot bank exercise. So these are habits and things that you cannot bank. Like good eating is something that you cannot bank. You have to eat healthily at every instant that you actually eat. And then you have to exercise daily because it cannot be banked. So these are the kinds of lifestyle and habits that we need to develop, because their effects, although they are long-term, right, you cannot bank them. There is a myth that you can actually pay back sleep debt. The truth is that you can't. Lost sleep is lost sleep. The information is already in there, etc. So what I'm pointing out here for people who are looking at what's convenience versus, and how do we address them technologically or biochemically or chemically, is that when we accrue all of these deficits, they cannot be paid, really. We're just trying to put Band-Aid over it. We try, for example, for exercise, right? We do short protocols that exercise all the planes of the body, for example, which I teach to my patients, right? A multiplanar protocol, which can be done in 20 minutes. And it's good for seniors, like me almost this year, to be able to do for 20 minutes without actually bothering to do a longer routine like I used to when I was younger. And there's age-appropriate exercise. So these are the kinds of conveniences that actually we can tailor to our patients or clients that will allow them to be able to be compliant. Because 80%, I said 80% of our results are due to patient compliance. We can give them as much a protocol as we want, like high fiber diet. If they don't follow it, you're still fucked. You tell them, okay, this is sleep schedule, but if they aren't able to sleep, you're still fucked. So what I'm saying here is that it's very hard to put convenient solutions to things that we cannot bank or we cannot save. And those are eating, sleeping, right? And exercising. These are things that cannot be banked. And therefore, we have to actually execute the solution right then and there when we need to.
Ted, I have a question. What can we bank? Anything?
Sperm.
Yes, we can. Is there anything that we can do now that pays it forward later? There's certain things, of course, right? But what stands out to you is something somebody can do now that's going to pay it forward later, for example, other than sperm banking?
Oh, actually, that's kindness. No? If you're kind now, it will be paid later. In terms of health optimization, right? The health optimization, we say the things we do, we actually detect and correct imbalances in our metabolome, right? Although optimization is continuous because the goal is health. And health is a perpetual goal. It's a moving target. It's not a curing a disease. So what pays forward is that we're not even preventive medicine, right? Preventive medicine is prevention of disease. How it's paid forward is via the beneficial side effect. Prevention of disease is a beneficial side effect, right? You're being more kind to your partner and to your children is a beneficial side effect because you feel a lot better, you have a feeling of well-being, and therefore that translates to the people around you, the people that you supervise, to your company, etc. That's what I've seen as a long-term effect, right? It's not banked, but it's a long-term effect, right? Of the things that you actually do to yourself. Because quality is at this moment, right? Quantity, that's a beneficial side effect. Like longevity is a beneficial side effect of health optimization, right? So we're not after longevity. So we're not banking anything, but we are looking at the long-term beneficial side effects of what we do.
Yes. Yeah, I think one of the things we always run up against, and you said this so appropriately over the years, is that it took you 50 or 60 years to feel the way you are and you want to feel better tomorrow. It's just not something that's reasonable, right? Because the biology, physiology, all those things are going to shift and it's going to take time. So we have to be there for patients and clients to help them along that path and give them ways to find their way through.
Yeah, we're an instant gratification society, right? So we want, it's like, I have 40-year-olds who come to me, like males who are depressed, they're on antidepressants, and just 3 months of hormone balancing, they actually don't need their antidepressants anymore. So you could see here that these things are accumulated over time. They cannot be addressed overnight. Much more so for nutrient imbalances. You have not been taking magnesium for fucking 20 years. How do you expect that to be repleted overnight? You can't. It has to be done in tandem with both your diet and supplementation. And my problem with illness medicine doctors is that, don't take those vitamins, minerals. You can just eat them in food. And my challenge to them, okay, name me one food that has alpha lipoic acid in it, because that's a measured deficiency here. So that's the arrogance of illness medicine, right? They think they know that it's in food, but when you ask them where in the food it is, they wouldn't know where it is. So I tell them to shut up. If it's not your specialty, just shut up.
I love it. Alan, I have a question for you actually that's related to this, is that you have one of the most convenient places for people to go for any single problem they might ever singly have is the emergency room. And so I think there's a real cost for people being able to use the ER at will for everything. Do you think that this, and I know you discussed this before, how it's when they've gotten to your ER, it's too late, but the convenience of going there and getting their next whatever from you, how does that relate to you think to all of this as we're describing it?
Yeah, it's interesting. The first thing that came to mind was when you say you can't bank anything, by virtue of not eating enough fiber, you're just banking your stool, right? And it's just backing up and backing up. And then guess what? Convenience and comfort, putting those things aside, you do come to me and there are real conditions from severe constipation, one of which is something called toxic megacolon, which, yeah, that's exactly what you think it is. It's a huge dilated colon that's so backed up. And think of like a muscle that has just been stretched and not worked for so long that it's thinned and atrophied. And now it just can't even push anymore. And so now this person has lost a majority of the tone in their bowel. And so they can't even push stool forward. So they are quite literally full of shit. And they have to come to us, and no matter what we give them, even if we give them fiber, it doesn't really help them. It's like the analogy of you had someone who's not been exercising or not been taking magnesium for decades, and all of a sudden we give them magnesium, we think it's going to get better. No, like their system has adapted. So we have to go in there and manually pull it out. And sometimes we'll actually have to admit people to the hospital for this very thing. So
It's convenient to give them vitamin D.
it's
Vitamin
it's
dilaudid.
convenient to exactly.
My question here is like, is it too easy for people to just go to the ER and convenient? And then the hidden cost of this may be that people don't have any reason to try to help themselves. They can always get dilaudid from one of your ER doctors, and
Which will make
get
them more
mounting
constipated, actually.
Yeah. That
What's
was-
interesting, so the problem actually makes itself worse. In the ED, we're trained to treat emergencies. And this is something that isn't an emergency. And so when someone comes in and they are looking for guidance on how to manage their constipation, we of all the things that we see in the ED and the things that we are probably least equipped to actually help someone on the more chronic front is going to be things like constipation and maldigestion. And we have a wonderful module to help those that are listening to understand gut health and the relation to the immune system and digestion. But when you come to us, basically we are in the mode of just flushing you out and relieving whatever blockages in the pipes. And then we're just hoping that it stays that way. And so we're going to give you things that are going to sequester and keep water and fluid in the gut so that you just have leaky stools, because the alternative consequences is putting your health at even more risk. So in the meantime, your gut microbiota is essentially shot, or you probably didn't have much diversity, at least in the commensal sense to begin with. There is no, and then all the benefits, I guess going back to our banking analogy, what we are banking when we're eating fiber and we have a good diversity of our food is we're taking care of those microbiota. And those microbiota make these amazing molecules called like different metabolites, things like short chain fatty acids. And then that actually feeds our intestinal cells, and that makes sure that they're taking care of themselves. And so they're healing themselves. And a beneficial side effect is, guess what? We clear up the damaged DNA and the waste and the things that over many years accumulate and can
Oh
cause
my
cancer.
God!
But
Someone
again,
has
that's
rehearsed a lecture.
I'm
That's
channeling you,
fantastic
Dr. Tell.
lecture, Alan. I bet you've given that once already. I'm kidding. Do you remind me of something about banking exercise, right? One of the tricks that I do if I can't exercise is, of course, I go on a course of anabolic steroids, right? So I am going to be like fucking 4 weeks in Manila. I won't be able to exercise. What am I going to do in order to preserve my muscle? So you start with, okay, I'm going to take a short term, like 6-week term of some anabolic steroids, et cetera. But the thing is, even when you're taking those, you still have to lift weights in order to make the gains stick. Because if you don't do your exercise during the time, everything that you preserved or gained during the time is just all lost right afterwards. So what the flying fuck is the same, right? So there's no such thing. Again, it's back to there's no such thing as banking exercise, right? You can cheat as much as you can, but the thing is, you still have to do whatever it needs to be done. That is the natural signal of the body, right? Example: the body needs tension in the bone, muscle and bone, in order to keep the calcium in the bone, right? It's a mechanical tension that is needed. That's why you encourage women to actually do resistance exercises, right? Because no matter what you do, even if you take testosterone and other anabolic steroids in order to keep that, you are still going to lose that calcium, and they're still going to promote osteoporosis, especially because estrogen actually is responsible in women for about 30% of the calcium deposition process in the bone. In fact, that is established that hormone balancing, especially with estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, you can actually recoup up to 30% of calcium loss in the bones, right? That's way better than any other strontium-based or other injectables that you get in there for osteoporosis, right? So here again, with Alan's point, there are natural signals in the body, like it needs a certain ecosystem of microbiota in a certain distribution in order to function properly. They provide chemokines or natural signalers to the intestinal mucosa, like the colonic mucosa. They need butyrate. The primary fuel of the colon cells is butyrate, right? And low butyrate is associated with colon cancer. And that's old news. That's in the journals. But we don't think about this, that they are actually produced by the colonic bacteria. And the cheat there is that you take butyrate supplements. But the problem with butyrate supplements is that they actually are very difficult to get into the colon.
And Ted's right. You could absolutely take butyrate supplements, and sometimes we actually do recommend starting those in someone that is in our practices with health optimization. Certainly that's
when it comes to finishing this up, Jodi, maybe you and I can wrap for a second here. I think what it comes down to is that we're not, back in the 1950s and 60s, convenience was key, right? It was like the Jetsons time frame, right? Like everything was going to be so easy and so convenient. But in the end, we're now realizing that making things so easy and so convenient isn't so easy and so convenient for this physiology. And I think it's a responsibility for us as clinicians to go, look, maybe there's a different way to think about this. And we're just getting sicker and sicker if we're just thinking about convenience and comfort all the time. I don't know if you have any last parting words for us as we go here, Jodi.
The way that I put it to my clients is we are more inclined to be comfortable. And obviously we need to look after, as I was saying earlier, about the chronic states of illness, and we need to have rest. But it's knowing when we don't need rest, because we have lower mitochondrial turnover, we have lower BDNF, we have, what I've noticed in people who have been really in looking after their rest, and it's been a chronic state of rest because they want to and they need to and they're scared to push it. After working with HOMeHOPE, and you can see it's like we're re-putting in all these things, so you should be okay. Your cells are now more resilient, you're filled, you've been corrected now. But what I've noticed is that you get this persistent state of sympathetic tone, you get a persistent reduced HRV, you get a persistent poor sleep depth and health. And then it's that delayed muscle activity, that kinetic sort of movement. You feel that you're not switched on. I feel we're always going to tend toward comfort. We have comfort in our phones, comfort in our homes. We're warm, we're safe, we're sitting on couches. We've got food availability for most people whenever we want. We're not temperature switching much at all. We're all in this steady aircon. I liken it back to when I lived on a farm. I was in the stables. You can't control the temperature. You have to deal with the differences. You have to be out in the open, and it's a stressor, but it's a good stressor, and you feel stretched, and it's a good willpower. You're strengthening those areas of the brain. You're widening your willpower areas, and you're likely to get more oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin from those activities because you're actually getting natural highs. We talk about high being quite often. But from what we get now, we get so dampened by the comfort that we don't get, and we also have high levels of dopamine producing tools and techniques and IT and all these phones and games, that the natural changes in our environment and what we're doing in our exercise or even just eating food doesn't give us a hit anymore. And I feel that's a big problem with comfort as well. And therefore, we're less likely to reach out to actually gain those good feelings and good hormones, neurohormones from interaction with people or from activities that we might go out to. So I think about this a lot because I see this in clients. They're like, oh, I just need to rest. I need to recover. I'm like, yeah, we do, but we also need to push. If you haven't lifted weights or gone for a sprint, if you can sprint, then you don't really know. And when you do that and you come back and you feel so good after a sprint, hey, it's wow, that was really damn hard. But now, and I'm absolutely fucked. 10 minutes later, half an hour after that, you're like, I feel freaking amazing. It's so good. So it's just an analogy, but those sorts of things, just different ways of stretching ourselves, I think is a really important.
So one super final tip, a very practical one from an older person like me, right? One of the things that we lose as we get older is the capability to be flexible, right? So what I do is that the things that I commonly reach for in the kitchen, I actually put them at a very high shelf so that I am actually forced to stretch up and reach them. Because everything is conveniently arrayed for you. You don't even have to, you just do this. But if you're actually forced, right, to reach, right, then it's a lot better for you. And if you put all of your array of your coffees, et cetera, that way, that will give you a lot of stretching exercise just in your kitchen, right? Practical tips like those make life a little bit harder for you. It's not all about being convenient, right? And then you essentially try to not have things delivered to you so you can carry, for example, this weekend, I had to carry a bed frame myself to my house, right? Which is like over 3 floors to actually bring it there. I could have easily paid, right? But for me, it's like the exercise of actually pushing myself because I didn't want to do it. It's fucking winter. It's cold outside and so on and so forth. But it's not about that convenience. It's about getting that activity in your system as part of your daily life. We are not meant to be sedentary, right? We're meant to move around, right? So that's what I encourage everyone else in terms of convenience. Make yourself slightly inconvenient but not dangerous, right? So that there is still that fight that within your system that goes on, right? And that your entire body is still exercised along the way. All right? And that's a very practical way to live your life.
I love it. That's a great tip to be a little bit uncomfortable. Allow yourself to be a little uncomfortable. A good one to finish up. So thank you, fellow faculty at Health Optimization Medicine and Practice, for this wonderful podcast on the hidden cost of convenience and comfort. And if you guys like this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe below so you never miss an episode. And we'll see y'all next time on the Health Optimization Medicine Podcast.